Hi everyone, so today I'll be doing a review on the Caramel Sundays 2-wick 100% soy candle in the fragrance ice cream sandwiches. The fragrance story is a little bit vague. It just says, another sneak peek into summer, this is our best yet. Top notes, coconut, whipped cream, strawberry ice cream. Middle, chocolate chip cookie dough. Base, sugar cookie, berries, and vanilla. The retail price of this candle is $31.99 shipped. And despite the fact that this is listed as a 22-ounce candle, the actual weight is 17.8 ounces. And then Caramel Sundays uses a blend of essential and synthetic oils that are phthalate-free. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the packaging. I like how Caramel Sundays candles have a clear vessel because you are able to see if there's any wax discoloration and you are able to see how deep your wax pull gets. They do use a clear label that's pretty easy to take off, so if you don't want to see it, you can either peel it off or turn it around or perhaps put it in a candle holder. And in case you're unaware, these candles, the 2-wick and the 3-wick format, do fit Bath & Body Works holders, which also fit Goose Creek 3 wicks along with Yankee Candle 3 wicks. But okay, let's talk about the fragrance itself. I was really worried when I read coconut because if you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I despise coconut. I feel like that's one fragrance note that I can't really get with, whether it is a gourmand coconut, a tropical coconut. Yeah, I just can't do coconut. So when I watched, I believe, Drew Yock's video, he got the larger size 4-wick option of ice cream sandwiches, and he said that he wasn't able to detect any coconut. So I thought, okay, let me take a gamble. Thankfully, on cold and while burning, I do not detect a coconut note. I don't know exactly where it went. I know sometimes coconut is listed to denote a creamy aspect, which I do get, but I attributed that more to the vanilla notes perhaps, or the sugar cookie. But anyways, I'm just glad it's not here. So that's one thing I do want to mention in case you're a little bit apprehensive and you are someone like me who doesn't like coconut. But okay, the first note, and I think the most predominant note that I get, specifically on cold, is that strawberry ice cream. And I do agree that this reminds me of a Neapolitan ice cream. However, with Neapolitan ice creams, most likely than not, they're evenly distributed into thirds. So strawberry ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and chocolate ice cream. This is not evenly distributed. I would say that this is a predominant strawberry ice cream. I would say maybe 60%, perhaps 30% vanilla ice cream, and the remainder is chocolate. So if you were wanting to get this candle for that chocolate portion, you're going to be a little bit disappointed because I don't really pick that up on cold. Now that I'm further down into the candle, I'm detecting more of the chocolate nuances, but it is a little bit light. But to go back to the strawberry note, I feel like if you're familiar with vendor wax or indie businesses, I feel like I can recognize this strawberry note. It's not fresh picked strawberry and it's not strawberry slices. I feel like it's the strawberry that's used in strawberry milkshake scents or strawberry jam scents, but it is detectable, and that's the main note that I get. After that heavy strawberry ice cream note, I am able to detect the creaminess from the whipped cream mixed in with an added vanilla. The chocolate chip cookie dough, I feel like it's definitely not double chocolate chips, triple chocolate chips. I feel like if anything, the chocolate chips are a little bit lacking in this cookie dough, which is fine for me personally, but when I smell it in candles, I would like it to be a little bit more prominent. But I know chocolate notes can lean a little bit unpleasant to some people. I personally like them, but that's just a personal preference. And yeah, the sugar cookie, it's definitely not too sweet. I feel like you get more of an ice cream feel from this instead of a baked sugar cookie, but it is slightly sweet, but I wouldn't describe this as a prominent sugary fragrance, like granulated sugar, for example. Strength on cold, I would give this a 7 out of 10, and I think that's mainly attributed to that very heavy strawberry note in here, mixed in with the whipped cream and the vanilla, because the strength is definitely not coming from the chocolate chip portion of the cookie dough. Maybe the cookie dough, but yeah, the chocolate scent is a little bit lost in here. I do want to make a note though that while burning, it's a little bit of a journey, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but it's a range from 4 to a 7.5 out of 10. But a sneak peek, it basically got stronger the more that I burned it. Projection, on the other hand, it's pretty good all throughout. I would give it a 7 out of 10. It filled up my medium-sized bedroom and it traveled to the adjacent hallway, but it didn't get into the kitchen, living room, open concept space. Actually, before I show you an overhead view of my candle, let me show you how it looks like from the side. Currently, I have this burning for about 3 hours and 10 minutes, and I have a pretty big wax pool going. So unfortunately, I feel like my burn performance hasn't been super consistent with this candle. I would say right before the label hits right here, my strength was closer to a 5 out of 10. So in my opinion, it's a bit weak at that point. I personally enjoy my candles to be at least an 8 out of 10. I mean, who doesn't want a 10 out of 10? But that's besides the point. Anyways, so I thought, okay, with soy candles, I have encountered this issue where the strength isn't always consistent throughout each and every burn. Sometimes candles can start off stronger, then they get weaker, and then they pick up again, or vice versa. And in this case, this ice cream sandwich candle started off weak and then it started to get stronger. However, coincidentally, at that same time, I noticed sooting issues, like burn quality issues. So there was a point where I actually saw visible soot emitting from the candle. I thought, okay, maybe it's because my flames got too large. So I trimmed my wicks and I thought, okay, I had it burning for about 3.5 hours at that time. Let me reduce my burn time. And even when I don't have it burning past the 3-hour mark, I do notice that more and more soot is accumulating, especially along this portion of the vessel. So right here, it's getting a lot sootier the more that I burn it. I haven't wiped it or anything, and I haven't put it in a place where it's very drafty. Another tidbit of information is that my family just refuses to put on the central AC. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like burning candles in the summer, because it has to get really hot inside the house, about 80, for people to agree to turn on the air, or it has to get really, really cold in order for people to agree to turn on the air. So I'm basically burning this candle at the farthest end of my room. So it really has to be strong in order to push out the scent. So it's not getting help from any like airflow. I'm not opening the window, which I probably should. But okay, let me show you the overhead view before I keep rambling. So here's the overhead view of my candle. If you can see, my flames are at about, I would say, medium strong. But unfortunately, I do have little black bits of soot in my wax pool. It's nothing too crazy, but it's definitely noticeable, especially in this portion of the candle. I don't know if you could tell, but thankfully it hasn't changed the scent in terms of it becoming scorched or sooty smelling. So I haven't had the need to soak up any wax, because also when the liquefied wax cools down and it solidifies, there's no definite line of demarcation where you can tell, okay, this wax is mixed with soot and then this wax just hasn't been liquefied yet, is what I'm trying to say. But overall, it has no issues pulling out. I would say that I get an even wax pool at around 1 hour. It might have taken a little bit longer during the first 2 burns, but overall, puny wicks, I have no problem with that in this candle. I'm just having issues a bit with sooting, especially during the last 50% of my burn. All right, so here is a quick check-in regarding the caramel sundaes to a candle in the scent ice cream sandwiches. I've been burning this for the past 3 weeks, off and on, different rooms and whatnot. So I'm going to include this in my dedicated candle review, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating some of the prior points that I've made. But anyways, when I first started burning this candle, I would say up until this label part right here, or maybe a little bit below. So maybe the first fourth or third of the candle, it was a pretty light scent. So it was around a 5 out of 10. Then I started noticing a little bit of an increase after each and every burn. And I thought, okay, maybe I need to burn half of the candle for it to really get going. And not the best situation, but all right. And then the last 2 burns, I noticed that the strength level went up to around a 7 out of 10. And then the throw was also a good 7.5 to 8 out of 10. But when I went to go look at the candle, I always burn it up until 4 hours. I never go past that. I noticed that there was sooting and I thought, what the heck? And I think it's because the flames got very large and bright So it's burning hotter, hence I think why it's giving a greater strength and throw. So then, okay, I extinguished it. I think at that point I had been burning it for around 3.5 hours, trimmed my wicks, and today is the next day. I noticed again that it was getting pretty strong. So I want to say today it's tried to reach an 8 out of 10. And then I thought, okay, let me check on the flames, see if it's sooting. And I think it's still continuing because if you notice right here, there's a bit of soot accumulation, which wasn't the case my first, like I would say 6 or 7 burns. And I'm going to show you an overhead view of the candle, but the wax is getting a bit discolored. I don't know if soot is going into the candle or if the wick itself is shedding. But right now I've currently been burning it for around 3 hours and 20 minutes. So I definitely haven't been burning this for about 6+ hours, nothing like that. But yeah, let's go ahead and show you the overhead view. Okay, so here's an overhead view of my ice cream sandwich candle that I have been burning for about 3.5 hours. I've never burned it past the 4-hour mark. And unfortunately, I am noticing instances of sooting, and there are little black particles in my wax pool, probably soot as well. It doesn't really bother me as much, but I did want to show you because I feel like sometimes there's this misconception that soy candles are exempt from soot issues or just burn issues in general. But yeah, right here I do, well, yeah, especially right there, I have little black particles right there. It's nothing compared to 100% paraffin or paraffin soy blend candles like Bath and Body Works that have definite black streaks in the wax pool, but it's still there. But I will take the trade-off of greater strength and throw with a little bit of sooting. So yeah, that's just a quick update. Hopefully my wicks don't get too crazy. But you know what? I'll take sooting instead of puny wicks because I feel like puny wicks are a little bit harder to manage. But yeah, I think it's a little bit funny that some soy candles, your burn, strength, and throw is a bit inconsistent. At least with this candle, that has definitely been the case. And sometimes I feel like it's the opposite of, let's say, a soy paraffin blend candle, where the soy paraffin candle burns really great up until the halfway mark, and then it just duds out, it gets murky, versus soy candles, sometimes 100% soy candles, it hasn't always been the case, but in my experience, it's been the case where it's like half of the candle, it's super weak and light, the performance isn't great, and then all of a sudden it picks up, or conversely, the first few burns are great, and then it kind of duds out. So yeah, hopefully this will continue to give me great strength and throw, but I'll go back to my candle review. While I feel like Caramelsundays ice cream sandwiches candle is a bit overhyped, I feel like it is a good interpretation of Neapolitan ice cream or ice cream sandwiches with the 3 colors. However, I feel like the strawberry note is a little bit too prominent. I would have loved a little bit more of that chocolate note coming from the chocolate chips. However, I do like the chocolate note that is used, that it doesn't lean too powdery, that it doesn't lean too dark chocolate. It's more of a milk chocolate note. And I do love that I don't detect any coconut in here. I just get that creamy whipped cream mixed in with the vanilla and the cookie dough in the mix. One thing that I didn't like about this candle was the inconsistencies, especially in terms of strength and burn quality. So the first 50%, I would give the strength a 5 out of 10, pretty weak, but it was burning pretty cleanly. Versus the lower 50%, I am noticing sooting, slight wax discoloration, and little like black bits in my wax pool, but the strength is at a higher 7, 7.5, which I do enjoy my candles closer to that range. So I guess there are trade-offs, and I know that some people don't necessarily like when candles start to soot, even if they're giving a higher strength. Overall, I would recommend this candle to people who want a good ice cream sandwiches candle. Granted, there won't be a lot of chocolate, but I would say that you might have to put up with some burn issues in terms of sooting, but if you're willing to exchange that for a greater strength, then that will be up to you. But I personally will not repurchase this candle because since I'm trying out Caramelsundays, I like to try out scents that I haven't purchased before. And this, while it is nice, it is not a love. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Okay, bye.